Hey, all right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Reel Down here on Paddle and Fin.
What's up?
Yeah, got Jimmy here with me. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. Are you glad to be back? We missed you.
Yeah, I took a week off. I really don't know if I've ever taken a week off, or maybe it's been at least 6 months, probably.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm pretty hardcore.
Yeah, he bleeds Paddle and Fin.
I bleed it.
I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, man. You knew. You'll get there. You'll get tired and need a day off eventually.
I'm tired all the time.
I hear you. It's Monday. But we're having a couple of technical difficulties here with Jody. Hopefully he'll be able to get on in just a minute. And we had Cody scheduled for tonight as well, but he, we're on Monday nights. He hadn't even gotten home from Arkansas yet, so he asked us to reschedule for another time. And the dude's winning every other week, and he's on here all the time. So yeah, we gave him took a day off for once, Scott said here.
And he hasn't came back yet.
Yeah. So we had to give him a break for 1 week. Cody, our third host here.
Yeah. That's what when he was like, can we reschedule? I was like, well, I'm sure we'll see you next week anyway. So sure, exactly. We'll talk about both of them.
And that's what you're saying. You're going up to fish the Bassmaster event in La Crosse, and Cody said he's going to be fishing that, right?
Yeah, I didn't go back, and I hadn't looked at the entries since there was only like 26 people registered. And in my head, I thought I remember him saying he wasn't going. And I was like, all right. I mean, there's some big names going, but I was like, yeah. And then he was like, when I said, well, we'll see you next week, he said, what is it? He said, got to get home, fix some stuff. I'm feeling good about La Crosse. And I was like, wait, you're going? And he's like, oh, yeah. I was like, well, I'm going to see if they'll give me my money back then. Never mind. So,
yeah, he went from, how many miles is that? He went from Arkansas all the way to
the Susquehanna. I'm not sure exactly where they were.
Yeah.
But way the heck that way.
And now
I heard him say on somewhere that he drove like over 1,300 miles to get there on time or whatever. Yeah. And then he's headed back home. And then he said he's leaving Wednesday to hit La Crosse. So we'll be in the same. He'll probably still beat me there. But day and a half, maybe 2 days of pre-fishing.
Yeah, and Scott's right here. Dude's winning events with a paddle. Yes, he is. But the last event we had him on for the KBF on, what was the name of that? And what, Indiana? Is that where it was at?
I think it was.
Yeah, whenever
he wins so much, I don't know.
Yeah, he got second in that, I believe. Or he won one of the days. Another day was Matt Ball. That, so he definitely won that with just paddle. So, yeah. But yeah, and Jody, just like Scott's saying, he's ridiculous, Both of them, and that's kind of one of the questions I want to ask him tonight. And this is going to be one of those nights. We're going to try not to keep him for too long because we know he just got home. He's got all that money to spend, and he's tired. But he's probably going to have the metal lady. He's got to spend some time with her tonight. But so just if you have any questions, man, what a great time to kind of try to understand what makes these guys so great. Like, what's that other gear? Him, Cody, Christine, the list goes on.
Everybody, yeah.
So many people who are so great. What's that extra gear that they have? How are they doing that? How are they that good? How are they that head and shoulders above everybody else? And sometimes you'll see, there's so many people who actually get in. Russ, Scott just said Russ in the chat, but always you have that upper echelon of people that are so ridiculously good. And there's a lot of other people who are maybe just as good. And maybe if they had more time to be on the road as Jody and some of these other guys where they could do it full time and they just can't do it. So maybe they're in that same group and you just don't know it because let's be honest, there's only a few people who are able to do this full time that, Jody, Russ, Cody, there's Christine, there's only a few people who are actually doing that. So, who's the other group who would be in there too? But really my biggest question tonight, we'll talk about Susquehanna. We'll talk about all that good stuff with them. Hopefully he's able to get on. But why?
He's still having a little bit of trouble. I tried sending him a link a different way to see if it'll get him in.
Yeah, but what's that extra gear? Dwayne Wally, Mr. Attorney X himself. Mississippi, I got to give it up, man. I'm from Mississippi, too. I'm very proud that you're a Mississippi man, and there's not a lot of good things that come out of Mississippi.
Hey,
me and
him talked, though. He may be over here in Alabama before too much longer. So.
Oh, no. Yeah, he can come on over, please. Please do.
Yeah. But no, like he was saying, time on the water, I do think that's a big thing. But at the same time, something that all of these guys seem to have in common is like the preparation. Like, I don't think there's a lot of winging it going on in that world with those, top-notch guys, ladies, women, however you want it. I think that just with anything else, the preparation is key. Like we were talking earlier, paying attention to minute details, fishing clean, not having any mistakes. I figure there is a whole bunch of just things like that need to go on. Come fish G with us next week. Man, I'm down. No, I'm not. I'll be at the beach. Crap.
Yeah, you're going to La Crosse and then you're going down to the beach.
I mean, I passed Gunnersville on the way back, so I guess I could stop by.
Yeah.
I'll get up with you, Scott. We're going to go fishing.
Well, we can talk about that until Jody is able to get on here. This weekend, we had the first Jimmy is the tournament director for the Alabama Bass Nation and had the first ever, was it the first event for a state nation qualifier for the Classic?
It was like you said, it was the first state level Bass Nation event as a qualifier for the 2021 Bassmaster Classic. That sounds very long and confusing. It kind of is. But it went pretty good considering, I say, okay, so short notice, kind of. Have we been working on it most of the year? Yes. But it was kind of thrown on us at a point where you've already lost your time window for getting sponsors, getting venues.
Dates,
yeah. I mean, and I'm sure if COVID wasn't around, I could have probably done a whole lot more with it. And then a lot of it was me I didn't postpone or procrastinate, but I wasn't putting too much effort into it because I didn't even know if it was going to be able to happen because of everything going on.
Yeah. And you kind of have to wait till the last minute to play it by ear to see if it's going to be live or virtual. And so, you definitely had to.
That's why, and I talked that. And for anybody that doesn't know, Dan's assistant director with me, and then Mr. Jesse Halverson. I got with those guys and we talked it over about, Steve, you're going to make me blush.
TD of the week, Jimmy Skinner. That's right. And Jimmy's also a tournament director for NACA, the biggest club in Alabama, North Alabama Kayak Anglers.
Don't play that up too much because I just do the little events for them, man. Like after this week, or you could say this whole preparation for this, like respect your tournament directors in your local clubs, the national events, people like AJ that, Chad, everybody doing a lot behind the scenes. I mean, even Steve's a national level director for Bassmaster. It's a lot of work. I can only imagine what it's going to be like next year doing a full tournament series and having a whole trail series. But
right now we're planning on having 4 and a championship.
Yeah.
And one of those will hopefully be combined with Georgia. So do a little, maybe something like that. Maybe.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get the details, or we will get the details worked out. Usually I'm talking about this with somebody else. I hear it. It's me and you. But
well, here, I'll give all the scores from this weekend. So first we had Randall Wallace. He's one of the NACA guys. He got 95 3/4 for one day on Gunnersville, all with a frog. He also won Big Bass. Christopher Marks in second, also a tournament director, one of the board members for NACA, 92.5. Steve Owens, the man himself, Mr. BASS Tennessee, he got third with 90 inches. Jim Clark just came off COVID and whooped me. I don't like that. I don't like I got beat by a man who isn't at full strength.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, he definitely wasn't, man. He looked like he was rough after the event, man. You could tell he had been grinding. They all did. I mean, Steve was dragging his feet when he came in. Randall was pep in his step. I mean, he just won.
Yeah.
You know, like
Two,
what I
almost
think it.
2 grand,
Let's see, I sent him his money. I think it was like $1,800
yeah.
for a day of frog fishing. I need that in my life.
Yeah. But Jim Clark, he had 88.5, and then I was way down there in ninth with 84. But yeah.
I was way down there in the air conditioning watching.
I had a bunch of bites, man. I just couldn't make it happen. This, like, I had so many chances at so many fish. That's why I'm not even complaining, because you know, it's a sad story, blah, blah, blah. But I really think I had a 10-pounder that came off that it was a Stanley top toad. He just totally missed it. But he like, I could see his back come out of the water, and I had so many blow-ups that morning. But this one, it was just a different caliber fish. So it was, I'll say conservative, because I caught an 8.3 earlier this year on Guntersville. Conservative, 8 pounds, but I truly think it was a double-digit fish.
You were in a good area for big ones too, man. I know that area pretty well.
Yeah.
And it was something, I won't say where, but at one point, I think 5 of the top 10 were all fishing. They weren't like on top of each other, but they were all fishing the same stretch.
Really?
Yeah, they were. I mean, they were probably all within 1,000 yards of each other, but they were all in the same area.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was.
I need to know that. I need to know. I need a new spot.
So it's a community spot. It's just some of these guys, and I know all those guys personally. They all know that little something different, which I don't know. So,
they're, all these community places on Guntersville, and that's the thing with Guntersville is there's really no secrets. I mean, it's it gets so much pressure, but it's so healthy and so vibrant, and just this unbelievable fishery. Imagine if it didn't get so much pressure. It's a top 10 lake every year, and it gets all that pressure every day, all year long, 12 months a year. There's no stop on Guntersville. So many pros live there, so many tournaments every weekend, because it's a bucket list for a lot of people, and it's still an unbelievable fishery with all that pressure.
Yeah, it's just like any other lake, like Kentucky Lake. Some people say it's going downhill, and some people cashing $1,800 checks and catching what he catch.
Jody Queen did great in that event too.
Yeah,
the Hobie up there. Yeah.
Yep. He's still messaging me. He's having a bunch of error codes come up when he's clicking on our link, so we're still trying to get him in. But trying to think of another way to send him a link. But yeah, it was a good event. I learned a lot. I kind of critique myself a lot on how I do things. Like I noticed when we did the live captains meeting, for some reason, my phone was picking all the volume up behind my wife instead of picking up me talking. So I'm going to invest in a couple wireless mics or something. But other than that, it seemed to go pretty good. I mean, we had 43 guys show up. I think that if this big Hobie event wasn't going on, we'd have probably had more than that. I mean, I'm not mad at that. We had it on the same day. I mean, it's just how it happens. But I think we'd have had a bunch of folks come out and fish that one. And I'm sure, with moving forward, we'll have, big turnouts with the other states because, Tennessee and Georgia, Steve's doing Tennessee, Freddie Garza's got Georgia. And then next year, I think with us all coming out with our tournament schedules kind of early, I think that we can all do certain things to really blow, participation out of the water, like joint events between two states on certain lakes and things like that. I've got a lot of ideas, and now that I've got help, because I tried to do a lot of this by myself, and then, because I was like, well, Steve's doing it by himself, Freddie's doing it by himself, and then I found out like Steve's got like a whole bunch of people that they all talk over and make decisions, and I was like, oh.
like for our state, it's different because the Bass Series is the first ever series in Alabama to allow motors. So I know a lot of other states, a lot of other people, they fish, KBF affiliate tournaments and trails and things like that. For Alabama, this is totally new. So it's
if you'd asked me a year ago if I would be sitting there controlling the first club to do that, I would have never thought so, just because we're so grassroots. I mean, my kind of fishing's real grassroots paddling. Saying that, I put a motor on my kayak Saturday.
We were this week.
So
and really, this is with Dwayne Wally on here, this is the first year that we've ever used turning in. Yeah, so all the states in the club, like we've went from total grassroots in Alabama to
we finally caught up with everybody else.
We're on the cutting edge now. Now we have motors and we use apps.
That's what I don't want anybody to think that's on me either, because someone did mention that to me. They were like, good job, you got the state to use TurnX. That wasn't it.
Yeah,
because that was actually in the beginning. That was one of the things why I had to branch out Bass Nation of kayak anglers separate from the rest of the state stuff, was because of that, because they still didn't want to use TurnX, and it's not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just they're that grassroots, yeah. And then with COVID coming along, that's what made the push. But now that they're using it, all the clubs seem to agree that, man, why haven't we been doing this before?
Yeah.
I mean, it was super easy. And like this event, I've judged a few events for NACA. This event went so smooth. I think I only had to deduct points on like 4 or 5 fish. I don't think I threw any out. Like everybody was doing a really good job. I mean, I had a couple blurry pictures, but I could still see the number.
It's nice because a lot of the problems are kind of spread out throughout the day, where they're, it's not everybody comes in, shows you your pictures, and you're dealing with problems all at the end. And a lot of confusion and everybody trying to do it all at one time. It spreads out the problems and spreads out the issues to where it just makes it more seamless. It's how it should go. And here at Paddle FM, we've blown so much smoke of Dwayne Wally's skirt with like how great TurnX is, but it's truly one of the reasons our sport has felt the least amount of change and problems. And like a lot of us have been able to go through COVID, and although our tournaments have changed and it's been different, we haven't been able to hang out as much as we usually do, which is a big part of why we love kayak fishing. But it's allowed us to continue and to have our sport and to enjoy it. And so they just cannot give them enough credit. I know Dwayne's not doing it by himself. He has his wife and a whole team of people working for him. But thanks again. I mean, really, I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, because times are tough and we still get to have fun and have our sport and do that. And a lot of that's because of him and what he's done.
Yeah, the TurnX is great. There's so many little features that I like too. So, like it gives the director everybody's information, like phone number. So, like we did raffle prizes instead of doing it all in person, and calling out numbers and anything like that. I was able to generate a number for everybody and then do a random number generator, pick it, and then just click on each angler, contact them that way. You can email them directly through there. Yeah. Anybody that had a problem has a way to directly contact you. That was one thing I had to make sure I did. I'm real big about, if I don't know your number and you call, I'm not answering. Don't care. And then like I missed one and was like, oh, that was probably somebody with a problem, and it was. So, and it was, there were a couple people, they were getting in a real sketchy service signal area, and it was throwing them a curveball. But I mean, that ain't a TurnX problem. That's a fishing in the middle of nowhere problem.
Yeah, but I know one of the questions that
I'm gonna try something here. You can keep on talking. I'm trying to get Jody in.
Yeah, do it. The one of the ways that one of the things that Scott Butcher always asked on his program was, who's on your Mount Rushmore of kayak fishing? Dwayne Wally
on my Mount Rushmore?
Dwayne Wally's on my Mount Rushmore now.
I mean, without Dwayne, where is it at without it? Where's kayak fishing nationally? Where's kayak fishing locally?
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't have an online platform, March or whenever COVID really ramped up, what would we have been doing? Some of us probably being hard-headed and doing it the way we'd always been doing it, but it would have eventually caught up with us.
Yeah.
Who's the rest of your Mount Rushmore?
Gotta have
this up, and now I need to know.
Gotta have the Hoove on there. Just I kind of met him for a second at the Classic Expo. He's definitely a spectacle. But but you got, I respect his service, number one, but everything he's done for a sport.
No, yeah, you got it. So like it would be Chad, Dwayne,
Right, Eric Jackson. I mean, not
Eric Jackson, Drew Gregory.
but he was a part Jackson Kayaks, kind of along with Drew Gregory, created the Coosa, and that's a lot of how our kayaks are based now, and that was the growth of the sport and why it made it possible. So,
If you could put a fifth head on there, I'd say Scott.
Yeah,
like straight up, Scott. Like Scott's podcast, his push for things, like it gets it noticed, makes it grow.
yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that, I mean, that's what we need and that's what we have.
It's our sport is only what it is because of people like Chad and like Scott who are I'm the I could never do anything like that because I'm the guy who just goes along, does his thing, slowly tries to grow. But our sport wouldn't be what it is without people like that who are pushing it constantly to not only bring more money into a sport but to change what it is, and that they're changing the idea of what kayak fishing is and what tournaments are. If you look at 2 years ago to where it's at now, and where's it, the trajectory it's on, what's it going to be in 2 or 3 years from now?
I can't wait to see.
They know.
I was with my buddy the other day, and a guy said, I don't know why these guys are still, like, we were talking about like Russ and Cody and Jody and these guys, and he said, I don't know why these guys don't just get in a bass boat. They're never going to make it doing what they're doing. I was like, man, I don't agree with you there. If the sport continues to grow, the money is going to keep, like, events like Hobie and Bass and stuff get noticed, coverage gets better. Like if Scott blows 5 Live through the roof with all the coverage he's wanting, stuff like that, it's going to happen a lot faster.
I think it depends on the person. I could see somebody like, people like Siddiqui or Cody or Christine, people like that transferring over to a bass boat and they'd be fine. But Jody, I could see where he gets to do his art thing, because they run that art studio, and I know he loves to do that, so he can do this. He probably made 50 grand last year. I mean, he made 40 at the TOC. So I know Uncle Sam takes a big chunk of that, but yeah, I mean, so he made much more than what the average person makes in the US. I don't know what that is now, but it's less than 50. Yeah. So he had a great year. He did that, plus he has that.
Man, and look at where some of these guys are at right now.
What else do you want?
Like Cody and Jody and Russ, just this year, look at where they're at already. And then you've got the big championships that are coming up at the end of the year, and these guys they're putting it up.
Yeah.
Gives me something to look up to. And like you were saying, these guys that, it takes people like Chad and Scott and all those to do what it's doing. I'm trying to do that in a smaller scale for our state,
Yeah.
And it went pretty good. I think that hopefully now people will take it a little more seriously. More people will be, involved next year.
I think for kind of my take on Bass, BASS, and I love Bass. I mean, I grew up idolizing them, and I live here in Birmingham. They are here. Like, I know people who work there. But I think Bass, they're very kind of the same way. They're not trying to rock the boat. They have no problem with their kayak series slowly taking off. They don't need it to be a one, like everybody wants to get in and wants it now and wants it to grow and wants it to be what they want it to be. Bass, like, hey, we'll get there. We're just taking our time. States are going to come on board, and that'll be great. It might take a couple of years. Hey, that's okay. But they're just going to slowly, they're going to build that great foundation, and they're going to do it slowly. So
that's one thing that Bass has that, none of the other, trail series could say is Bass was, Hobie, huge brand, very well established as a brand. Bassmaster is an established tournament platform, Yeah. So we have had a lot of talk. We have a group with the directors and stuff like that on the state level, and I'm trying to think of how it went, but it was like, do you see this taking off? why should we do this when they haven't done that kind of thing? I was trying to put that in a good way without like being rude.
Yeah.
And we all kind of went back to, well, they already have all this. They don't owe us anything. Like, we have to fit their puzzle.
Yeah.
So,
But
and I think that's what's happening. I mean, they are definitely into it. Like anybody that was we got a lot of guys that showed up for that first Logan Martin event, and those folks were like completely blown away by what kayak fishing community is, how we all are together, how all the directors are, how everybody's like close knit family, how many people show up for an event like that. Like, they're taking it seriously.
Yeah. I think, it's got to be tough for Bass because they went from they had everybody. They had all the biggest names. I mean, KVD, Edwin Evers, the whole list. And they all swapped over, and they had to have been thinking, because I know that they offered some guys over $100,000 to stay just on Bassmaster, and they made some big changes. And then now the pendulum. I mean, I'm a bass geek, so I love Bassmaster. I love professional fishing as much as I do kayak fishing because I came from the boat side, and they Bass went from, oh man, to now things are swinging the other way, and now MLF. Next year, they're charging everybody entry fees, and there's also not going to be that. That it was 25 that they had to. The people on tour, they signed a 3-year contract, so they couldn't get booted off tour. But if they wanted to get out of their contract, it cost them $25,000 a year. That's why Swindle and Brandon Polinick had to pay $50,000 for the 2 years left on their contract, and they got back into Bassmaster under a Legends exemption because both of them had won Angler of the Year. So now the pendulum's swinging back the other way because all these MLF people are like, hey, everything you gave me isn't as great as what we thought it'd be. And at the same time, FLW, all those people, they got rid of the Forest Wood Cup, and they got rid of, the entry fees. They're getting less for their money, less payout for their money, FLW. So you have all those people like Scott Martin, Brian Latimer, they all went to the Bassmaster Opens. You have all the MLF people that now they can't qualify for Bassmaster because they left it and they went to MLF. So they're in the Open. So right now it's the best field ever in the Bassmaster Opens, and everybody wants to be in the Elite Series again. So Bassmaster's really weathered a storm. So, I don't think there's anything that's going to phase Bassmaster if they can make it through that, to weather that, and to be as strong as they ever were. Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. But I think at the same time, they need kayak fishing more than what they think they do. And we heard John say before on ours, I know whenever we had him back in the day, we were the first people to have him, and he was on KBN last week, and that was a great show. If you didn't get to watch that, go back and listen to it, because John's the Bass Nation director, and he talked about a lot of different things, but you can see how bass boat sales are going down because nobody can afford a $70,000+ boat. They just can't. I can't. I do well. I can't afford that. So
yeah. The way the only way you're going to see me in one of those boats is if you give it to me. I love my kayak. Sure, you give me a $70,000 bass boat, I will use it. Yeah. But that's not in everybody's wheelhouse.
It's bass fishing on that level has went from a everyman sport to a few people sport. It just has. The times have changed. They want to sell more expensive boats, Vexus and all these $100,000 boat. That's great. You'll sell them.
But Vexus is sharp though.
Yeah, it's a beautiful boat for sure. So all those people are swinging over to our way now. So
yeah, no, and something that kind of goes along with that. So like people, those guys seeing kayak fishing's cheaper.
Yeah.
Something that I saw. So when I first got brought into Bassmaster, they had to put me on the state board and vote in a spot for a kayak president. And I had to kind of speak our part. And something I said was, imagine kayakers trying to back down a ramp.
Yeah. If y'all haven't watched his podcast, Serious Angler podcast, he just had one of my favorite anglers on there, Oh Lord, Ark. I can't even think of his name now. Brandon Cobb. Yeah. But yeah.
Hey,
Sorry.
he's already late, buddy. The guy that was fishing in the same area that Dan was at Gunnersville was using Panoptics.
Really?
Oh, he didn't tell you that?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, he borrowed that 360 with Panoptics, the Hobie 360 with Panoptics. But no, what I was saying, so they're kind of feeling us out, and they're like, "Oh, so y'all are fishing tournaments in plastic boats, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Yeah, the event we're having on Logan Martin, the winner's getting a $10,000 check," and like everybody was just like, "Hmm." I was like, "Yeah, y'all, this is pretty serious. Like $250 entry, 250 people." Oh my
Uh-oh.
God! I think we found him.
We got him.
It's Mr. Queen.
Man, that was like pulling teeth.
What, man? I'm sorry about that. We thought you had been on here since we were live, and I guess you had just been on. You've been on so many times that you hadn't been on with this program.
Yeah,
So
I think we used.
I'll take the blame on that one.
I think we used Skype.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably was it. Well, what's up,
Yeah.
man? Did you make it back home?
Yeah, man.
Long drive,
Yeah.
I bet. Not as long with all that money in your pocket, though, right?
Oh, can you hear us?
So there's a huge delay.
Okay.
You may have to. I know it sucks that you just got here. You may have to either try and click out and click back in, or we may end up having to take the video feed off.
Okay.
Yeah, just click out of the room and then come right back. We'll try it one more time, bud.
There's Miss Jean Wilson, who caught another dodo.
Can you hear us now? That get any better? Oh, I guess that's a no.
Okay. Hang on.
This is part of the world, folks.
Man,
Live broadcasts are not
I'm
easy.
trying.
Dude's been pumping his
look out.
legs in that drive for days. He's worn out. Come on, give him a break. There he goes. So he'll kicking himself out, and hopefully he'll be able to get back in. Everything will be good. Or we'll get rid of the video if we have to. But Jody really is like he's a very interesting dude. Like not only is a great fisherman, he's an artist, and I wonder if the kind of the artist mentality, if maybe being creative out on the water, maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. There he is. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Hey.
There it is.
If it starts to drop out again, just shut the mic off and see if the audio keeps up.
Yeah.
But you're good right now, I think.
Or no, leave the mic on. Just you might have to turn the video off. But if you can hear us fine, just let it go. All right. So anybody who we'll make this short because I know you've been fighting to get on.
It sounds like there's like 5 conversations going on right now.
Okay, yeah, try turning off the video, and we'll see if that does it. All right, is that any better? Just leave the video off.
I can hear you.
Okay. Is that any better? No. Just try turning the video off, Jody.
And just leave the video off.
Yeah, just leave the video off.
Okay.
There you go. Is that any better now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, sometimes that video, it can mess us up. And you're up there in West Virginia, man. Y'all just got the internet.
Man.
All right.
Daniel, I think you're coming through okay.
Can you hear me now, Jody?
No. All right. Well, we'll give you big questions and let you just go with them. So tell us about the Susquehanna. If somebody hadn't been there before, kind of set us up for it. Tell us about it if you don't mind.
Yeah. Yeah, so man, the Susky is just like a big, slow moving giant. It's like a gentle giant when it's at its levels that it is right now. And it's got a lot of slow ripples in it. It's got a few places uh, that are kind of rough, but they're very few.
All right, so I'll go over the numbers here. On day one, you were in seventh place with 85.5 inches. You were 2.5 inches behind the leader Steven Sisto with 88 inches. Day two, you were in fourth place with 86 inches, which was only inch and 3/4 behind the leader. And then but overall you won by an inch over Cody, who you had 171.5 inches and Cody had 170.5. So is it, I can't remember a time where somebody wasn't, like, the best day you had was fourth. Was that surprising to you that you were able to win? I know the weights were really stacked up there at the top, but to not have that kind of standout day, that first or second place, to do excellent on both days, but to not be first place or second, have you ever had a tournament like that where you've won in the end, but didn't do that top one or two spots in either the first or second day?
Yeah, I'm waiting on the delay to stop. Hang on just a second.
I love live coverage.
Yeah. Well, what happened on the Susky is I have this spot that I go to a lot, and I know the fish are there, and when I go to fish that spot, I try to save as much as I can. And what happened on day one was I wanted to get 85 or 86 inches because I figured that it was going to take 172 to 175 inches to win. I was asked that question by an interviewer about 3 weeks ago, and I told him that 172 inches would win it. I had a chance on day one to go back and refish some banks that I fished, and I actually talked myself out of it because I wanted to save those fish for the second day. I knew there was fish there, and I just didn't want to beat those banks up again because I knew that I was going to be back there fishing the next day. And it actually worked out good because I went back on day two and caught the fish that I knew were there on day two. So, there's a lesson to be learned there is, on a 2-day tournament, you don't want to beat up everything and not have nothing to go to on the next day if you're fishing the same areas. Now, if I was floating the river, it would have been a different strategy, but I knew those fish were there, and I just didn't want to, put all my eggs in one basket.
So you didn't do a float. So you just went to a ramp, loaded, and put back in at that same ramp. You didn't do a float?
90% of the time, I do single access.
Okay.
Just because that river is so wide, it's like having your own river if you just do a broad section all the way across the river. If you find a place that's got a lot of islands and a lot of cut throughs and stuff like that, it could take you days to fish an area like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of fish in those small areas. So if I put in on single access, I don't have to worry about pickup, shuttle. I don't have to worry about covering all that water and missing areas. I can really pick one area apart and find the fish in that area.
And so let's say somebody who's never been to Susquehanna and they're trying to figure it out. Like, I'm sure a lot of people, this was Catherine Fields and all these other people, it was their first time there. And it's such a big river and such a giant amount of water. I know you've been there before, but is there any advice you would give to somebody who needs to break that down in a practice time of what they can do to kind of find a section of that river that's going to work for them? Is there any advice you would give to those people?
Yeah, I would, if it was the first time you were on the river, I would suggest that you would go to find an area. The road runs along the side of that river for a long way up through there, and you can really, pick the areas that you really want to fish. But I would find a place where you have a lot of cut throughs, a lot of islands, because the water is really calm through there. Usually, you have easy shoals to get through. You don't have a lot of big falls or anything like that. Find an area that's going to be easy for you to navigate, uh, and just explore. Get back in the islands, fish the shallow waters, uh, do a lot of wade fishing. I was out of my boat probably 90% of the time on day 2.
Wow.
I spent a lot of time out of the boat and just taking my time and picking those areas apart. I caught all my fish in 6 inches to a foot of water, except for one fish. It was in about 2 feet of water. Those fish were laying so shallow, it was like their backs were out of the water. They were laying really shallow. And a lot of people were fishing in the middle of the river and catching a lot of smaller fish, but those big ones were up on the banks.
Why do you think that
Mostly
is?
around wood.
What do you think had them pushed up so shallow?
Man, it's just the nature of the smallmouth on the Susky. Every time I go up there, I find those fish really shallow. They set up on feeds. There'll be schools of minnows that come up in those shallows. There's a lot of red horse suckers in that river, and they tend to go in big schools. And they'll lay in those shallows and wait for those schools of red horse suckers to come up through there. Plus the crayfish are there. I mean, if they set up shallow, that's where the food is. And there's such large areas, they can lay there and be real still and not be noticed, even by anglers. I mean, you won't notice them until you're right up on them because you don't expect them to be there. And if you talk to any of the other anglers that fished that tournament, they will tell you they were laying in some areas just big shoals and 4 and 5 inches of water, and there was nothing there to hold them. There was no obstructions. There was no wood, no nothing. They were laying right out in the open in a shallow shoal, and it's really weird. And you have no way to know that those fish are there unless you spook them.
Right.
So I
they're
mean, when
keen
you're
to
in there,
camouflage.
you got to fish.
So tell me, I want to hear about that. I saw day 1 you caught a big old 19-inch smallie. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, I was floating down the edge of an island, and I was actually watching 2 snapping turtles fight. I mean, dude, they were going at it. I swear they fought for like 30 minutes, man. I mean, you could hear their shells, popping. They were biting each other and raking each other with their claws and stuff. And I kind of got caught up in it. And I was like, man, I got to get back to fishing, And I just turned the boat around, and there was a big lay down there in about a foot of water. There was a bunch of logs, and the water was just covering the logs. And I threw way back up against the bank, almost bounced the spinnerbait off the bank. And when I got to that outside log, man, he was just laying there. I didn't even know he was there. He just come out of nowhere, busted it about 10 feet off the front of the boat. And luckily, on those short strikes, it's hard to get them in. But luckily, I kept him on there and got him in.
Heck yeah, man. So would you say that between day 1 and 2, was it a grind, or was it more of a grind to find the bigger numbers? Were you catching a lot of fish and just looking for upgrades?
I would just consider it a really hard working day. I knew the fish were there, but I really had to work for them, mostly because of the area I had to cover. I mean, I covered a lot of area, it was just hard work to pick them up. I didn't catch a lot of fish. I caught 10 fish each day.
Wow.
It was just hard to get to. You know, you just had to get out and had to wade, and I had to pull the Hobie, and it just took a lot of energy to do it, but
yeah.
But it worked out.
So is back to them being pushed up so shallow. What was the water temperatures like? With it being moving water like that over the shoals, were you seeing some cooler temps in areas, or was it still just
That's
pretty?
funny. You should ask that because the day that I got up there, the water temps, I checked the water temps at Sunbury and it was like 84. And
Right.
we had a big rain move in. I think it rained like 2 inches in like an hour up there. And
Wow.
the water temperature went to 79 degrees, and then it dropped all the way down to 76 overnight. And then it was there for a couple of days. And I think they just got them out and got them moving around and laying in those weird spots. The
Yeah.
Susky is notorious for being a great fishery during high water. When the water gets up around the grass beds and you have a lot of current, it seems to position those fish in very predictable areas. But when it gets low like this, if it's not super low, they just spread out. The water's clear and they have so much area to get in. They don't have to school up. There's nothing to position the fish, so they can lay anywhere they want to. So that's kind of frustrating if you've never fished up there before. I think a few of the anglers like Christine and Cody and I think they figured that out. On the second day, they just had to cover a lot of area, keep throwing.
And that's kind of the
Yeah,
deal
they just
I've
had to
noticed.
figure out that they were just everywhere.
That's kind of the deal I notice when I fish moving water down here looking for smallmouth is that it's generally not a concentration. It's a cover water, throw a lot
Right.
kind of
Right.
deal. And then like in high water, it seems to do like you're saying that rain cools the
Right.
water off. They seem to get in spots you would not expect to find them. So that's pretty cool. That Gene Wilson wants to know, Jody, were you wading in your Crocs?
Yes, I was. I was waiting 90% of the time.
Heck
And
yeah.
Chris had a question for you here. Now that you're doing so well in the Hobie AOY, and maybe you really want that orange one of a kind AOY kayak, that Halloween kayak, are you going to go fish California?
No, I'm not going to go to California, but you'll probably see me at either Dardanelle or most likely the Coosa River chain. I'll probably be down there for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see you down there.
Dardanelle's still up in the winds.
So here's a question for you. It's not the first event a pro has fished, but what did you think about? Obviously, Ike's a great guy. He takes it seriously, and it's awesome he fished it. But what do you think that, like, kind of first, what do you think about Ike fishing it, and what do you think that means for the future of our sport? Is that something that you think is a positive or could be bad or what?
Okay, Dan, that sounds okay. Hang on. Yeah. Okay. Man, I tell you, man, there was a lot of my friends and fellow anglers up there that were talking about, man, Iaconelli's going to be here. He's like this second greatest fisherman in the world right now, and all. I've heard it all, man. But I'll tell you that the person that I worry about when I'm up there is Jedediah Plunkett. I mean, that guy is, and and I talked to Ike after the tournament, and he's on a learning curve, just like anybody else that would be fishing the first kayak tournament. I mean, he was telling me, he's like, man, I've got a lot to learn if I'm going to do this again. The ability not to be able to cover a lot of water, with a boat and find my fish and just go to those holes. He said, it threw me for a loop. And And he was, the night before that tournament, he was worried about if he was going to catch fish, if he had the right baits, if he had picked the right area, just like everybody else. I mean, he's a competitor, and he was in something new, and he had the nervous butterflies just like anybody else. As far as the pros dropping down and fishing I say dropping down. I think they're moving up, actually.
That's right.
But it's a different world for those guys. It'd be hard for us to jump right into the bass boat world and be great at it. I think it's the same for them to come down and fish the kayak. And as far as them being pros, they're just other anglers, man. I mean, I think that it legitimizes the sport some, I think. I mean,
100%.
We're too big right now to be ignored. I mean, these guys, Jordan Lee fished one, and and Dave Lefevre fished one, and I think Jordan Lee finished what, 9th or 10th or something like that, and Christine Fisher came in ahead of him, and it's
the Tournament of Titans.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing for everybody. You still got to get out there. You still got to find the fish. You got to pick the baits. You got to figure out what they're doing, and you have a smaller area to do it in. So, I mean, I think it's great. Now, would I like to see all of MLF come down and fish a tournament? Probably not. But I think that would just muddy the water up too much. But I have no problem with anybody coming in and fishing these tournaments. The more the merrier.
And something that I'll add to that is these guys could take this back. So I okay, I can't cover water. I have to figure out how to even, further break down where I'm fishing and be thorough. They could turn around and take that back with them and have a whole new mindset of how they fish.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's like I say, they're learning something new. I mean, just like when I got my first kayak and I put it on the water, and I took a little Coosa up to Kentucky Lake, and it was like a washing machine out there. I mean, and that's how I started. I didn't know no better. I thought, well, heck, it floats. I'm going to get out there with the rest of them, and you learn, and that's how you do it. I mean, the learning curve might not be as great for the Mike Iaconellis and the Jordan Lees because they have a lot of fishing under their belt, but it's still a learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Marks had a good question here. Are there any baits that you used this weekend that you want to tell us about, something that worked for you more than something else?
Sure, man. I mean, I have this one bait that works. I fished the New River a lot, and it's kind of contrary to the popular belief that you throw dark spinner baits in muddy water. But there's one thing that I do with this spinner bait, and I'm giving up a big secret of mine right here.
Uh-oh, juice. Watch out.
Yep. I take a War Eagle spinner bait, a 5/16. I take the top blade off of it. You got to get the Colorado blades in the 5/16, and I'll take the top blade off of it, and I'll put on a number 5, which is a big, fat, round, looks like a pie pan, Hildebrandt blade. And I'll pull the skirt off of it, and I'll put a black and brown banded skirt on it. And, dude, I don't know what the smallmouth think they are. I don't know if they think they're rock bass or crayfish chasing something or what, but they'll hit them in clear water, even with that big, heavy thump. And that's what I use for 2 days.
Update. It works. Jack Warehouse is sold out now.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to Jay Wallen before the tournament, man. I said, man, have you ever used those War Eagle spinner baits? He said, I've got about 180 of them. But they're great spinner baits.
I've got a lot of the finesse ones.
On day 2, on day 1, when I told you we had that rain, it was really interesting because I was fishing where there was a creek upstream a little ways, and where I launched, the water was just like, it looked like a yoo-hoo, I mean, it was just mud. And about 50 yards out, it was just cloudy, and beyond that, it was clear. And on day one, I stayed in that cloudy water. I think that might have had something to do with me doing it decent on that first day too, after that rain. But on day two, it got crystal clear again, and so I did switch. I switched to a Strike King, solid white spinnerbait with an Indiana blade. It had a little bit less thump, but it was still a good sized blade, and that's what I used on day two. So I threw spinnerbaits for 2 days. That's all I did. I caught one fish on a Z-Man bang stick, and that was when I was trying to get my 5th fish. I thought, you know what, I've got a couple hours here to get my 5th fish, and I need to get it out of the way. So I put on a bang stick on a little shaky head, and I went out to the middle of the river behind found me an eddy and just dropped it in there, and I caught one, but I didn't need it because I went back to the spinnerbait after that and caught that 17.75. But get your limit first. I mean, knock that thing out, get that monkey off your back, and then go after, the fish you need to win it. And if you're lucky, you'll get those fish in the first 5. But if you're not, just get your 5.
Oh yeah. That's the hard part of the battle for a lot of people. I was going to say something too that, with the craze of chatterbaits, you don't hear as much. And I know it's
created by Jody.
Right. But with the craze, you don't hear as often about guys going out sticking to the spinnerbait like they used to. Because, I mean, most of us here can say that the spinnerbait was probably the trick in your arsenal when we were growing up or getting started.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I grew up, I started out with an 1/8 ounce rooster tail, white or black. I mean, that's all I threw on a Zebco 33 when I was growing up, man. And I loved them, And then I got into the bigger rooster tails. I started throwing the 1/4 ounce, and then along came, the bait caster. When I switched over to it, I mean, I started throwing, the big spinner baits, and I don't know, they're so versatile, man. I mean, especially if you, like I'm saying, you use those big Colorado blades. If you're fishing, slow water with lots of cover, like those big logs I was fishing. I mean, I'll just throw it out and pull it across the log and let it drop. And it's been a while since I've been on a spinnerbait pattern, because everybody knows I throw a lot of jackhammers, but I will tell you this, I threw a jackhammer up there during pre-fishing, and they didn't want anything to do with it. I mean, let the fish tell you what they want. And so I pinned it up and didn't even take a jackhammer rod with me on tournament day. I'll also tell you this too: the Susquehanna River is notorious for the spinnerbait being a good bait to throw. So I catch more on repair than I do on jigs. I catch them more on spinnerbaits than I do on jigs up there.
This just in, Mr. Jackhammer said that it did not work on day one.
Yeah, it did not work.
What thing Scott Butcher said in the comments earlier was, and I didn't think about this, and this is definitely maybe not a coincidence, but you and Cody are both sponsored by Cashin rods, and both of y'all were using the new Icon series rods. I actually saw where who's the founder, the owner? What's his name?
Oh, that's Matt Cashin. Yeah.
I didn't know that the Icon series were a direct replacement for the Elite series. Is there something you can tell us about that new rod and kind of explain what they are?
Man, I mean, right now I've just been using the crap out of the one rod that I've got. It's a 7-foot worm and jig rod, and I was actually throwing a spinnerbait on it because I don't know, man. It's a great multi-purpose rod for the river because you got plenty of backbone and you got just enough tip. You want a little strength if you're fishing current because, you got slack in your line. You got a lot of variables. And that rod, dude, it just has such a feel to it. I mean, I could feel, if anything just tapped or just swatted at it, I could feel the difference, in the way it was running. I mean, if it just got close to it, and I would throw back in there and usually catch that fish. I knew that fish was there, whether he got it the first time or not. I mean, they're just so sensitive. The grips on them are still the carbon fiber grips. No, I take that back. They're Kevlar, and they got a little more comfortable feel for me. I like them a little better than I did the graphite grips, but that's just me. It's my preference. The graphite grips were great. I love them too, but the Kevlar grips, they feel a little softer in my hands, and they treat me a little better when I'm handling them. The rods are balanced really well. I don't know, man. They're just great rods. They're very sensitive. I don't think I missed any fish on that Icon. I think I fished clean with that Icon. I missed 2 fish in that whole tournament, but it was on a different rod. And
throw that one away.
Yeah, I mean, I fished really clean with it. I mean, I really, really like the Icon series, man. I can't say enough good about it.
I bet with all the sensitivity in that rod and that number 5 blade, I bet your hands were vibrating when you got finished each
Dude,
day.
you ought to see that tip, man. The tip
I
on
bet
that
you
rod
just
is,
dancing.
yeah, it's just boom, 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 boom. It's crazy.
I
It's
love
crazy.
throwing Colorado blades.
Yeah, it looks like somebody dancing in a strobe light.
Well, Jody, we sure do appreciate you being on. We know you're tired. You know, you got to put that big check in the bank. We want to give you an opportunity to say, talk about any other sponsors, anybody that makes it easier for you out on the road. Now's your chance to do it.
Man, you know, I think the most successful people in this business surround themselves with good people. And I love all my sponsors. I don't have very many of them, not as many as a lot of people do. It's because I'm real picky about who I choose. And, you know, a lot of my sponsors choose me, which that helps too. You know, fishing online is John and Brianne up there, man. They're just great people. I feel like I'm a part of a family with fishing online. I mean, they treat people so well. Their customer service is excellent, and they get their stuff to you fast. They don't mess around. I mean, you order something before 2 o'clock, it's in the mail.
Yep.
You know, Craig Storms, dude, I love him to death, man. He tickles me to death. I have the best time with him, but he's Dakota Lithium, and I'm telling you, everything in my camp up there was powered by Dakota, and everything on my kayak is powered by Dakota, and I can go for, you know, a couple of days without even having to worry about it. I haven't even charged my 10 amp hour box. I know it's just a 10 amp hour, but I run lights and all kinds of stuff off of it. I blow up my air matches with it. I mean, it's just a real handy tool to have. You got USB ports. Yeah. And of course, you know, Yak Attack, everybody knows Yak Attack. They've been around for a while, and people seem to forget, you know, where all that stuff come from. But I'm going to tell you, that is a great company. Everything they make, it holds up for me. If it snaps or swivels or holds something, that's what I have in my boat, man. I'm telling you. I mean, they're a great company. Yeah, I mean, I like to give a big shout out to a few of the anglers, man. I mean, Christine Fisher, Kurt Schmitz. He's a great guy. If you guys, you know, don't follow him, you need to get on his page and follow him. Man, Kurt is just such a nice guy. I had an opportunity to pre-fish with him for a day, and we have the best times whenever we get to do that. And he's just a great guy, man. I really like him. Some of the West Virginia boys, Chris Schaefer, who had a great showing up there. These guys are river sticks around here, man. I mean, they do good just about anywhere they go in a river. Joe Farley, a good friend of mine. He had a couple tough days up there, but man, I'll tell you, he's a great stick around here. Tony Bryant, all these guys that I'm saying, I mention them for a reason. It's because they represent the sport well. You know, you got Jay Wallen and of course AJ McCorder, who puts so much work into this, man. He puts so much work into it. I mean, you got a guy here. If you have a discrepancy in a fish picture, he'll call you in the middle of it and say, "Hey, man, have you got another picture?" You know, I'm not. I mean, he takes care of the anglers, you know. But I'm mentioning these names because they're true representatives of the sport. I think in this sport we have a responsibility. I have followers that ask me questions about products. They have followers who ask them, and you surround yourself with those people with good products. That way, when you pass on the info to the people who are following this sport, you're not lying to them. And you just have a responsibility to fish clean and keep your integrity. And I just those anglers do it. You know, Jason Broach, Cody Milton, Matt Ball. I mean, these guys are true representatives of sports, and I'm proud to know each and every one of them and be included in the conversation with any of them.
Well, good deal.
Man. Everybody you named are great people, and you're a great person. We appreciate you taking some time out of the end of your day.
Guys, I'm so sorry that it took me so long to get this thing straightened out.
Man.
You know, our sound is perfect now. I don't know what the delay was, but it's fine now. So,
we
anyway.
made it, and we'll have you back on. I'm sure you'll win something else again. We'll see you.
I hope you're right about that, man. I would like to, you know, you got Russ Snyder's out there, man. I mean, we're neck and neck right now. I mean, that guy is a mutant, man. And if you've never met him, he's one of those nice guys too, man. He's just a great guy, great representative of the sport. Like Jackson Orr, man, that's the future. These kids that are coming in, if you got guys like Matt Ball, Russ Snyder's, and Cody Milton, and Eric Siddiqui, you got those guys out there, and our youth are looking at them. This sport's going to go a long way, man, as long as we got people like that in this sport. So I'm very optimistic for our future.
Amen. And, well, we appreciate it. And watch out for Kurt Smits, too. He was leading in the beginning, a couple events left.
Oh, man. Kurt's thick, dude. I'm telling you, man, you got to watch them all.
That's right.
Well, thanks, Jody. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, brother. I appreciate you having me.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
As always, what a gentleman and a great fisherman. Just the best guest. I love Jody. Jody's the best, man.
Tons of good information.
Giving out some juice.
Oh, man. Bro, I throw those spinner baits. I've got this wrote down. It just gives me, like I was saying, people put it down. Same thing with most baits. They don't quit working. You just quit throwing them.
Yeah.
I'll be hitting the tackle shop tomorrow because I know somebody, a local store that carries those blades and those baits. I might be going picking up a couple of them, take them up to old Wisconsin women.
I like it. All right. Well, as always, we got a bunch of tournaments to go over here.
What's up, Scott? Old house buddy of mine turning on in the comments.
First up, we have, besides the two events we already talked about, the Indiana Kayak Anglers on the White River had 78 folks. First, Matt Gibson, one of the Team New Canoe guys, 84 3/4. 80 in Darlington with 84 1/2, and Nathan Pickering with 82 3/4, and our own Brad Hicks, 17th out of 78. So he had a good day.
Yeah.
Adirondack KBF on Mohawk and Hudson Rivers, 30 anglers. Matthew Zappala, 83 inches. Scott Jemison with 80 3/4, and Brian Nuzano with 79 1/4. Next, Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail on Portage Lakes, 58 anglers. Daryl Kowalski, 91 inches. Eric Pullins with 86 1/2, and Reese Stoughton with 86 inches. The KKFC on Kawarthen Lakes in Ontario, a Canadian club up there, 51 anglers. First place was Alan Couch, 77 1/2, Zach Tucker, 77 1/4, and Henry Ing with 75 3/4. And then KBF Tennessee, MLF, this was an MLF style event on Percy Priest, 39 anglers, and this was a dang tough event. Style event, and first place only had 90 1/2 inches, Nick Hood. Second place, Jeremy Johnson, 79 inches, and in an MLF style event with 39 anglers, third place, Michael Ernst, 62 inches. So that was tough. I mean,
I know Michael. He's a good angler too.
The KBBT Final Four, they had that this weekend. The 4 on Saturday, then the final 2, the final on Sunday. The Final Four was Mason Good, Marcus Coates, Kyle Zimke, and John Warchall, who we just had on, Ohio Hammer up there. And then that went down to Mason Good and Marcus Coates, who battled it out on Sunday. And Marcus Coates, another new canoe guy, he ended up winning it all. So congratulations to him.
Making new canoe look good, man.
That's right. We had the Mid-Atlantic KBF on Susquehanna. This was a co-event with the Hobie event. Some people fished both. Ryan Lingeli with 53 3/4, 3-fish tournament. Steven Sisto with 53.5. He was leading day one in the Hobie with that 53.5. And then Richard Topher with 52.75. And then Minnesota Kayak Fishing Association on Lake Minnewaska. Like saying that. There are a lot of great lake names up there. This was an interesting event, 3 bass and 2 pike. And it had 50
species.
Yeah. First place was Tony Gedmenis. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. He had 155 inches and his big pike was 35.75. A monster. Chuck Vang, I guess that's big. I don't know. Chuck Vang, he's second place with 107.75, and Cliff Buck with 107.25. And then last 2 Nebraska kayak anglers on merit, 30 anglers, James Francis, 90.5, Joshua Dixon with 89.25, Brett Wilson, 86.5. And last but not least, out in California, our brethren out there on the Pacific, Wild West Bass Trail on Lake Don Pedro. Sounds like a nice guy. 72 anglers. Jabong Zhang, that guy is a killer, 83 inches. And then Damian Tao, also another. And these 3 guys, you hear them every time we talk about a tournament. Damian Tao in second, 81.75, and Scott Savaco with 86.5. So, as always, congratulations to all the winners. And if you ever want us to highlight a club, we keep it at 30. But if there's one you want us to bring up, we're more than happy. Just message us and we'll do that too. We just have to have a cutoff or we'd be going all night. Yep. Great win. You know, a great event. A lot of people kind of a short notice event that they had to get in there. So to have that
over 100 anglers.
Yeah, to have that many people, that many great anglers on, you know, the weights were really stacked. So obviously it's a great place to fish. One of those bucket list places everybody wants to go. I know I want to go. Hopefully if they have one next year, I'll bid on it.
I want to go everywhere, man. I just got to figure out how to afford it all.
It's tough. You try to do like one a year. I try to get one lake a year or one kind of fishing thing a year. You know, you only have so many years, but you only have so much vacation time too. So you do what you can.
Starting to get over that. I'm trying to figure out ways to just avoid the vacation and just quit work. I just quit.
Bro, I'm with you.
My wife's just gonna have to get a better job.
We'll be poor. We'll be poor together.
We'll combine our ones.
My trajectory and career path would be like up, down.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks as always listening and watching, everybody. Sorry we didn't have the video for Jody and it took so long, but we ended up.
You didn't have to have the video. Y'all still got all sorts of good information. And I mean that when he talks about, you know, how good he talks about other people, it just speaks loud for him and makes me want to be the same way. So hopefully everybody takes that away from it.
Dude, Chris, I wish I could, man. Seriously, I would love to go out there.
Man, it was close. It was before the COVID. It was either go to, for me, it was lacrosse or what are they doing out there? They're not doing Clear Lake. They're doing the Delta, right?
Yeah, Clear Lake.
No, it is Clear Lake?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, I was going to go to that.
Or no, it is. No, Chris had Clear Lake, but it is, the Hobie is on the Delta.
The Delta, yeah.
That's where Rush used to be a guide. So.
I'd like to go out there and see if I could finish ahead of Greg Blanchard. That'd be
He had a good. I think he was in. I think they had 72 anglers. I think he got like 20th. But he was talking about coming to a national championship. You know, with COVID, you never know. But fishing that and that Hobie event, since they're 1 week apart, maybe doing that down here on Acusa. So
yeah, I hadn't broke it to my boss that basically the month of October, I'm just going to have to take off.
I'm about to start living on Acusa here come September. I'm be spending a lot of time.
I'm gonna let you figure it out, and then I'm just gonna have to come wing it.
Don't do that. Don't follow me. Don't follow me.
I'm at the motor now. I got
you. I'll be practicing with a motor by then. So yeah, you better watch out. I'm gonna get moving in that pursuit. All right.
Yeah.
But that's it. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you again next week. As always, wear them PFDs, be safe, and drink some water. It's hot out there. Sometimes
next week, hopefully, we'll have the winners, me from the Bassmaster out on lacrosse. I'll be glad to be your guest next week. Talk about how good I did.
I like it. Sounds good, man. All right. Well, everybody be safe, and we'll see you again next week.
Good night.